Hello and welcome to the Human Frequency. Today we're joined by our guest and friend Sheila Reavill, who is a building biologist. We've talked a lot about EMF on the show, and generally when Gabe and I are talking about EMF, we're talking about cell phones and Wi-Fi's. But Sheila is going to educate us on 5 types of EMF, how to measure them, and what to do about them. So Sheila, thanks for joining us today. We're very excited to talk with you about it.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you're a building biologist, and that's a field that was new to us. I had never heard of it until you told us about it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to the field of building biology and what building biologists do?
Okay, so I've always been health conscious my whole life. I've done a lot of things with diet and supplements, and I was at a pretty good place in my 40s. But there were some symptoms that just wouldn't go away, and I felt like I was kind of plateauing. And so I thought, well, the only thing I haven't really investigated is energy. So I Googled that term, and I found Anne Louise Gittleman's Zapped: Why Your Cell Phone Shouldn't Be Your Alarm Clock. And I read it, and in there it explained everything, and I highly recommend that book, as everyone should read it. If you live in the 21st century with as much frequencies that are being generated, you need to know this information. She explains everything: frequency, what the state of the environment is, how it's changed our environment, and the health symptoms that are associated with that. And so she recommended hiring a building biologist. And so I went to the Building Biologist Institute, and on their webpage, I located the building biologist that was closest to me, which was Eric Winheim in Sacramento at the time. Now there are more. There are a lot, especially a lot in LA, and there's more in Northern California too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, the word is out. Our class that I'm training right now is what doubled in size just this year.
Wow.
And the building biologists that are actually practicing are busier than ever.
You know, it's becoming really a known topic now. I hear people talking about EMF that I never would have heard talking about it before.
Yeah, it's not relegated to the realm of obscurity
The lunatic fringe
that it was even just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the tinfoil hats. I actually had my principal. I was a school teacher, retired now. He actually made a tinfoil hat joke when I asked him about the EMFs in my classroom. He said, "You know, if I come in and find tinfoil hats on all the kids, I'll start to worry then, Miss Reavill." Like, oh, you don't worry. But anyway, getting back to building biology, so I hired him, and he measured the AC electric fields, the AC magnetic fields, the RF, which was my concern. But I found that the AC and the AC magnetic and electric fields also have health effects, which is not as widely known, along with the multi-surge electrical pollution that rides along the current of the lines in the house. So he came in, and he went through once over, and he actually found some sources that I wasn't aware of. I was aware of the cell phone tower outside, and that was not my entire problem. And a lot of people who hire building biologists, that's the first thing that brings them in, is I put this cell phone tower out here. And then they find out that's not really a problem.
Yeah, we were surprised too. We were very surprised at the stuff that was coming in here, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. And so I was really grateful that this service was out there, because I had no idea it was out there. But it's been around since the 1980s, when Helmut Zia, he was a German. He's no longer with us, but he was a German international architect, and he went to Africa and was trying to help build a community there, and their houses were built out of concrete, and the inhabitants they weren't living in them. They were living in huts outside the buildings. And he realized, wait, there's something wrong here. We're not building homes that are helpful for people. So he, along with another organization, through their help, organized the Building Biology Institute, where a building biologist will measure the electrical environment, but they'll also measure the air quality, the breathability of the building, the temperature and cooling factors, and the sunlight, and how much air is getting into the home. So it's not just the electromagnetic part, if you want to go that far.
So it's all about the health of your house. which should
Yeah,
be
it's a
our primary
holistic.
concern. I mean, it's funny
Mhm,
to me. I mean, it's not so funny that houses are not built with health in mind.
mm-mm. They're built by science. They're built by industry and scientists, and not medical doctors or health practitioners. So
Right.
so that's what brought me to building biology, and that's a little bit about what it is. It's basically looking at the home and the health, how holistically and how it is. But um, the the EMRS part, electromagnetic radiation specialist, if they're certified, they'll be able to tell a person where the sources are at, how powerful they are, and what kind of health effects that is, because we have the Building Biology Institute is the only organization that has established exposure guidelines that correlate with thousands and thousands of surveys that they've taken over the decades, and also the published and peer-reviewed science.
So in your field, you're actually able to measure the stuff that we can feel without being able to measure it. A lot of people can feel these electromagnetic fields, but have no way of measuring it. And so with your field, you can actually show people a physical, way of looking at it. You can see
Mhm.
the numbers. Okay, we measured the levels of the magnetic fields around all the devices in the house, and it tells you what it's putting out. And that was what was so interesting to me, is people always want proof of everything. And so this is a way you can prove that, yes, these devices are putting out different types of EMFs. And what I love about it is that it gave us yet another tool to mitigate these things in our house. Orgonite will do so much, but it will only do so much because it's still coming in. So
The-
shielding, it's very important. And anything that you can get rid of, it's very important to get rid of.
Right, and I have orgonite in my home, and I love orgonite because it works on the etheric space, um, but these EMFs are working on the physical space, so they're two different things. So one of there's a position paper that the building biology has, and a lot of us do use etheric devices and things, um, but we also know that first and foremost you have to um, eliminate
Yes.
or distance the source,
Yeah.
because you can do all this stuff, but the physical is still going to work on the physical.
Yeah, it still breaks down the body. I mean, you can
Mhm.
make it less damaging. But
Right?
why
Yeah.
live with something damaging? That's what I always tell people
Yeah.
about the organites. Like, you're going to need this to take care of what's coming in from outside of your house. When you're in your own house, you shouldn't be exposing yourself to these things.
Yeah.
Um, but I was really fascinated with these various types of EMF because we focus almost exclusively on RF, because we're dealing with mind control a lot with our work and strengthening the mind. And the RF is the one that really gets to the mind and the brain. But I'd love it if you could just talk about the different types of EMF. I know there's 5 types. If you could
Mhm.
explain them, because people don't understand. There are all these different types, and the electric company knows people are worried about smart meters. But when they send you an EMF information sheet to ease your mind, they only talk about what's coming out of your refrigerator or your washing machine or your television. They don't tell you about what's coming out of the smart
Yeah,
meter.
selective
Mhm.
disclosure.
Right. So let's go
Mhm.
over them, because they're all damaging to the body, but we can do something about all of these.
Yeah. So there are 4 types of EMFs. And most people are really familiar with RF, radio frequency. Um, Everyone needs to get a copy of the electromagnetic spectrum to see where you need to be educated with the frequencies you're being exposed to. At the very end, the low end, everybody's familiar with the Schumann frequency, the 7.8 hertz. Okay, that's one cycle, 7.8 cycles per second. Um, and that's a good natural analog cycle that's helpful for us. And then you go up a little farther, it's 60 hertz, and then that's where our electricity is at. And it wouldn't be so bad if it was analog and it was just flowing one way, DC. But Tesla made sure that everyone who was designing the system knew about alternating current. So it's cycling 60 cycles per second this way and that way.
In both
Every
directions at the same time.
Well, it's alternating. AC current means alternating current. So it's
Okay.
alternating. It's going this way, and then it's
And
going
then
back that way, and then it's going
got
back
it.
this way. So that is very irritating to our biology, but it's still analog, so it's not quite as bad as the RF. It's in the Romex. It's all around your house. But building biologists sometimes call it our electric cage.
Ah,
And the hot and the neutral come into your house. So the hot sends it into your house, and the neutral sends it back to the transformer outside. And they should be close. They create fields, but the closer they are, they kind of cancel each other. So that's why Romex is really the not hot and neutral really tight together. But they do create a field. And the thing in building biology is distance is your friend. So if you put a meter up next to the wall in your Romex, it would be really high. But a foot away, it drops off really quickly.
yeah, I noticed that we use the Gauss meter. So for magnetic fields, you're using the Gauss meter to measure.
Mhm.
And Sheila sent all these meters to us, by the way. So we
Yeah.
were able to experiment and have fun with it, and then take the actual measurements with a consultation with Sheila. And it
You
turned
had a
out
little more fun than
I
did.
was having a gas with the Gauss, and I
Yeah.
was going all over the house measuring the magnetic fields, and it makes a loud noise. It makes a squealing sound, and the meter goes up. And I had heard from Lloyd Burrell, who we did an interview with years ago from electricsense.com. Distance is your friend. He said that too. He also said, don't have that electric alarm clock next to your head when you sleep. And, I thought I was being so good because I don't use a cell phone to wake myself up. I use an electric alarm clock, but the magnetic field was quite strong. And I was surprised. When I moved it 2 feet away, though, it was okay. And it forces me to get up in the morning and turn it off. So
Yeah, it dropped off. It dropped off pretty fast
Yeah.
the further you get away
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah, with magnetic fields, it does. Magnetic fields, it's the cube of the distance, I believe, which it will drop off fast. Electric fields, it takes a little bit more distance. But
Mhm.
and you need to remember that there are two separate fields, and we measure them with two separate meters.
Okay, so you were talking about electric fields, and then I brought up magnetic fields. So
they're so close together
Okay.
because they're together, but you have to think about them separately.
Okay, so they're both generated by electricity,
Mhm.
the electric and the magnetic.
Right. So think about an arrow, and that's the electric field. It's going this way. And then the magnetic field is like a coil around it. And
That
that's
makes
the
sense.
magnetic field.
Yeah.
So they're separate. The higher you get up in frequency, they tend to get closer together to where they're almost one. But at the lower frequencies, they're still pretty separate.
Well, we noticed the magnetic fields with the Gauss meter, and the electric fields, we measured that a different way. I think that's the one where you had us take our body voltage. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the meter that Sharon's talking about to measure the magnetic fields, and you can get this at lessemf.com for like $35. And it's very simple. It's for amateurs. It's not a professional meter like I have, and you just press the button. There it goes. And then right now it's a little high because I'm close to some electronics. It's about 0.4 milligauss. And milligauss is what we measure it in. And a building biologist will have a bigger, fancier one, it'd be more sensitive and be able to measure the field. So that's one of the first things that we want to get out of the way, because most people don't know this, but the World Health Organization put out a mega study. It was an epidemiological study, and they found that if kids were living in homes that had over more than 2 Gauss, okay, so like right now I just measured 0.4 Gauss. If it's in the 2, 3, 4 range, they had twice as likely chance of getting leukemia. Now, most houses like yours and mine, we're pretty normal levels. A normal level would be about 0.2 to 0.7 around there. But if there's a wiring problem in the house, especially older homes, then you'll get 2, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10 Gauss, which is really harmful. And you find cancer clusters. You find cancer. More people in the family are getting cancers in those houses. This is just anecdotal from what building biologists have been experiencing.
That makes sense, and people are exposed to the same toxin. So when people say cancer is hereditary, well, your whole family had it. Well, maybe not. Maybe if we could make our home safer, none of us would have cancer.
Just kind of break the
cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got magnetic fields and we've got electric fields. The third type is dirty electricity.
RF.
Oh, we're
and
doing
that-
RF
Are
next.
going to do RF. Okay.
Oh, wait, what did you say?
I said dirty electricity.
Oh,
but
yes, let's do dirty electricity because that's really close to
It's
the
related.
wires.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens when you have the power cords that the block power cords have the block on the end? Those are switch mode power supplies, and they mess with the electricity because you don't want to take 120 volts off your main line into your delicate computer because it'll blow it up, right?
Oh, you're talking
So-
about that big block in the middle of the
That
cable.
big
for
block
the
where
computer.
it has the prongs that go into the outlet.
Oh, the wall wart.
Wall warts, yeah. Actually, the wall warts, the big heavy ones, had a magnetic step down in them. Those weren't so bad. The new ones are very light, and they have electronic step down. So they're stepping down that voltage to get
Yeah.
into your computer, not blow it
So
up.
that puts out extra electrons into the atmosphere because it has to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, because it's like switching it down. It switch, and it creates high frequency currents.
Hmm.
And they get on your power line. And so your power line, instead of the smooth analog sine wave you would see on an oscilloscope, it has this caterpillar fuzz. And those are all the high frequency transients. Comes from your smart meter does it, pool pumps, inverters, unless they're really expensive.
Also light
clean
dimmers,
ones.
right? Light
Light
Yeah,
dimmers.
dimmer
dimmers.
switches.
Those ones really bother me, actually. I am sensitive to that.
Mhm.
And it's strange because I'm mostly sensitive to RF, but the dimmer switches that I start to get a headache from.
Oh my God. The last house we lived at in LA, all dimmer switches.
We
the whole
switched
place.
them out while we
I mean,
lived there.
it was a small place, 500 square feet or less, but still
Mhm.
every single switch is a dimmer switch. But yeah, we just flipped the breaker off, switched them all out, got all these regular switches.
Yeah.
And then when we moved out, we
We
just
put them back.
put 'em
But
all
that
back.
house prompted us to make a lot of healthy changes. So we'll get into that too, because the RF in there was through the charts too. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. You know your body's your best meter.
Yeah.
It really is, and you're not alone. There are a lot of people who are sensitive to that frequency,
Yeah.
the jagged. Yeah.
Well,
Sam
we
Millhouse.
measured the dirty electricity in here with your help, and it was relatively normal.
Mhm.
And we also were able to mitigate it. So let's talk about how you measured it in our house with the Stetzer meter and how we mitigate it with the Stetzer filter.
Yeah. So you can get all this stuff online too. It's Sam Millhouse was one of the original researchers in this, and he did a study at La Quinta Middle School in California because they were having a lot of cancers there, and he found that there's a lot of high dirty electricity. He did a epidemiological study, and he found there's correlation between cancer and dirty electricity. And some people can just feel it, like you, Sharon. They go, "Oh my gosh, I can't stand this." And so we measure it with a meter here. This plugs into the main line, so we
It
can
has to be a
get-
grounded outlet, right?
Yes, it has to be a grounded outlet.
And
Otherwise,
Sheila also includes a
yeah.
little tool with the kit that you get that shows you
Yeah.
it shows you if your outlets are grounded properly. So that
This
one,
is a circuit tester,
yeah.
and so the light, it will light up and it tell you what's going on with your circuit there. But you have, one of them says ground, and you're good.
So it has to be grounded. And then we did the test and we got a pretty typical level of dirty electricity in our house.
You remember what it was? I don't remember. It was like,
I'm trying to remember. I think it was like, I'm trying to remember if 250.
Yeah,
Does that sound about right?
yeah, that's pretty typical.
And then when we put in the Stetzer filter and did the test with the filter in, it went down to somewhere maybe around between 50 something and 70 something, depending. It was depending on the outlet, but maybe settling around 70 or in the 60s.
It
Yeah, I think
varied,
it's
but it was
70
within
something.
those
Yeah. Yeah.
parameters.
Yeah. We did find that was helpful. And I think it helped with sleep. It's hard to know. It's hard to say.
Yeah,
Because we have so many other factors going on. We're changing a lot of things right now.
What-
even if it doesn't help your sleep, it's still healthy for it.
That's good.
Well, what this man found at the La Quinta Middle School with the dirty electricity being off the charts, if he looked a little further, obviously he would find that RF is off the charts too. And of course, this would go in line with your experience at a school where the RF was absolutely off the
Yeah.
charts. And I might add that also falls in line with what we were discovering in our early days of orgonite gifting 6-7 years ago, that we would find a very, very high prevalence of cell phone towers clustered around schools
Yes,
specifically.
it's terrible.
So
It seems like they're targeting schools specifically.
these are all pieces of the puzzle kind of coming together and forming a bigger picture of this EMF problem.
Yeah, it's everywhere, and it's really sad to see the schools where those kids are the most vulnerable too,
Yeah.
because this affects people differently. It affects women and kids the most, and you would think that that was the one place that they wouldn't put it,
Well,
but that's
if you know who they is, then it has a different, you have a different way of looking at it. You know, we want the schools to be safe, but you know, we have a huge government bureaucracy that's parasitically run, that's providing all the money for the schools. So they're going to be,
Not only are they putting them there, they are in fact concentrating them
right. And they
there
can
more.
probably make money
Yeah.
renting out the space to telecommunications companies
That
too.
too.
And like, oh, look, we're funding the school with this tower. But no,
Yeah,
they don't have the
it is.
interest of the kids in mind, really.
So
Not
RF.
that way. Okay,
RF.
so RF is the this is a meter. This is $179 at lessemf.com. I would.
Oh, that's cheaper than on Amazon. I love that meter and I'm getting one. I'm obsessed with that meter now.
It's a wonderful.
I can vouch for that.
It's the Acousticom too, and it's a wonderful tool. I mean, it verifies everything that I'm feeling. So you know, people can't say you're crazy anymore.
No. And they can still say that, and they will.
Well.
It's an amazing meter. I mean, we learned so much about our home environment and our neighborhood with this meter.
You're really blind unless you have one nowadays, because they're putting it everywhere and they're not telling us. There's no regulatory agency, or the agency that's supposed to regulate it is not doing its job.
Well, then goes back to the same thing we were just talking about, parasitically run. They're not really doing it for us.
So when we talk about EMF on our show, which we do quite a bit, we are mainly focused on this type, RF, which is
I think it's the most harmful.
Yes.
And I mean, I see it doing the most harm to the most people.
Yeah, we're getting into new territory with 5G, and it's I don't know if you want me to go into that at all, but
well, we can go into that because it's important to know. But we have some very interesting observations about that ourselves from our measurements. But yeah, 5G is a huge problem. 4G was also a huge problem. It's, you know, it's all a problem.
But the thing is that 5G, a lot of it's in everyone's own hands.
Well, so is 4G, and they had the choice, and they decided. Everyone said, no, I'm going to go along with this. I'm going to go 5G with this. Even the people who know better and are against 5G are using it.
Yeah. It's very seductive because of the convenience and the perceived abilities that it's giving you. But 5G is the key word is densification and millimeter wave. You know, we have meters to measure 4G. That there's several bands of RF. There's the megahertz bands, which is the TV, the radio station, FM radio stations, and the megahertz. We don't in building modularly. We don't really worry about that much. It doesn't do as much damage as in the gigahertz, which is the Wi-Fi and the cell towers and such. And now the FCC is handing out bandwidth of the millimeter wave, which is you have the plus 20. We call it the plus 20 gigahertz. So
it's
like
huge. I mean, that is so fast. Yes, it just tears up your body. 20
gigahertz to 680 gigahertz, I think. And then you're starting to get closer to light, infrared light, once you get past that.
Oh my gosh.
and I hope they don't start licensing light, because if they jack up our natural sunlight, oh my gosh, because it won't be natural.
I'll never leave the house again.
But
oh, there's a limit to
that is fascinating though, but
what they can do.
Well, yeah, and let's not forget that we do have the ability to say no to that, and to put orgonite everywhere. I would like to just say this because I was kind of saving it, but one of the observations we made here, while everybody is most concerned about a 5G tower near their house, we found that the biggest threat here was our neighbor's house. And, each house in itself becomes a 5G transmitter. So that's how that whole thing works. The best thing you can do is not use it. I tell everybody this. If you're worried about it, don't use it. It's bad enough it's over there. We can shield that and we have Organite, but don't bring that into your house.
Yeah. And don't get a security system.
Oh, well, that's another problem. That's a huge problem over there.
That's the word that was one of the two big surprises, was just how bad this house was. And it's a little bit away from us and below us, but it was still a huge problem.
And we discovered another source of EMF, a house quite a ways from us, because we're pretty far from a lot of the houses here, with a security system. It's in the red on the front patio here facing that house. The meter was in the red. So there you go. It's the other houses that are a huge threat. I had no idea.
With 5G, it used in the 4G era, it was enough to just eliminate the devices in your own home. It's not enough anymore. You have to have shielding now.
Yeah,
because
we've seen that we need shielding.
Yeah. And shielding is the last thing that we recommend. The first thing we recommend is, distance is your friend. If unless you can
social distancing with EMF devices.
Turn it off, distance it, shield it is the last thing.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't say it's the last thing. I would say you do it in conjunction with the other things.
Wow, it's crazy. It has really amped up. I can see that. We actually don't have a lot of 5G towers where we are. We're in the mountains. So I do want to add that even if you don't have 5G tower near you, you're probably going to still be getting these very, very high EMF levels from everything else around
from
you.
the homes.
And this thing it goes from one device to the next to the next. It creates a web of EMF between all these devices that are communicating with each other.
Yeah, and there aren't really a lot of neighborhoods that have official 5G yet. Anyways, the way it works is the 4G tower, and they're gonna the scary one part was the small cell. They do this in Sacramento. I know a building biologist in Sacramento. The way he explained it, because they have it in his neighborhood, is you're gonna have these small cells every couple house. And those are really powerful, and they're 24/7, just sweeping, looking for 5G phones. And once they find a 5G phone, then the 5G antenna turns on, and it beamforms just directly to that 5G phone, delivering it 5G service. Now, it's very problematic.
But they haven't done this yet, you're saying?
No, they have.
They have
but
in Sacramento.
Only Sacramento, certain areas I think Huntsville is considered 5G. 5G is so squirrely because it's like this giant Frankenstein that they don't even know if it will work right.
Yeah, you know what? I see them having difficulty with implementing things like this. I don't think they need to, first of all. In order to mind control the people and to destroy everyone's health, they've already got everything they need for that. I mean, they're doing just a great job of that. But
ask my son, I said, do you think they have mind control frequencies that they can, make people do things? He said, like, Mom, they already have that. It's called television.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as that's true. As far as the RF is concerned, everybody's already fully under control with that. I mean, everyone's just being torn up by it. So, I mean, I don't know if it's economically feasible for them to put in that many towers. However, I mean, they do send a modem to everyone's house. Isn't that good enough? I mean, you think about it, the grid's already in place.
The thing with it is 5G is a cellular phone initiative. It's meant to service mobile phones, not your Wi-Fi. And they want to penetrate the house so you can get your cellular data. So it's kind of competing with your internet service provider, because they want you to be able to get your data to your phone through your house, which is
they're already
really
doing
problematic.
That. See, this is what I say about 5G, and I totally know what you're saying. I totally know it's faster and more harmful and more pervasive, but everything they're doing with 5G, they're already doing. I've seen for years, everybody's just glued to their phones. They get all their internet off their phone. It hasn't changed people's lifestyle. It maybe is giving them a higher dosage, than they were getting, but it hasn't
Way
really,
higher. Yeah.
but they were already gone. They needed to get rid of the 4G phone. And this is what I'm saying is humanity is a lost cause if they can't get rid of the smartphone. That is what they have to do one by one by one. We're not going to eliminate this problem any other way. And the only thing we can do for ourselves is shielding. So we can't really stop this 5G monster. I mean, we can stop it ourselves, but we can't stop all the regular people who are going out and getting the shot, who are glued to these things. We can't stop them from perishing.
Yeah.
I'm
people
more
are
concerned
able to
about
make
what
their own
can the
choices.
people, what can the people watching us today do to protect themselves? Because this isn't going away. They've got it. And I know that most people watching probably do use smartphones. I urge you not to. I really wish you would stop. This is just feeding this whole monster.
Yeah, the cell phone tower really is nothing compared to the cell phone that's right up against the ear.
Yeah.
They've had cancers that grew in the pattern of the antenna of the cell phone next to the ear. The amount of radiation that comes from a phone is about 2,500,000 microwatts. The amount of power you get from your cell phone tower might be about, maybe if it's really bad, 500.
Well, we took all the levels in here, and we have a smartphone that we use when we have an emergency. We turn it on, we have to make a phone call out on the road, but it's off almost all the time. So I tested the meter, we did the readings in the house, and our readings were very low, like compared to most houses. When I turn on that phone, it spiked all the way top, and then it was just screaming. It was at the top, and I turned the phone off again, and it was like back to normal. So that phone was,
it was really
an
bad.
offender.
Actually, the other thing that surprised us, the main neighbor's house being the first one, the second thing that really surprised us was that the electric meter was not actually that bad.
The smart meter,
which we, on our previous home, we had an analog meter. We didn't even have a smart meter on it. We opted out right away, but slightly different circumstances here. And also SoCal Edison is all screwy right now with their little computer virus.
Yeah, they're a mess. So
they can't even generate bills or they can't really do anything. They can't answer the phones. They're a mess. So what's going on right now is that we tried the the smart meter shield. Yeah, the cage, the
Faraday cage. I should have brought it. I could show it on camera. It's just a little cage you put over your smart meter that reduces the signal by 98%, so they could still read it, but it doesn't come in.
It worked. It actually worked too well. Because they couldn't even get the signal. It's supposed to let just the teeniest little bit of signal out there so that they can measure it from month to month. But it was so effective, and also added to the fact that the meter is on a very, very strange place. It's got a solid brick wall and a big mountain basically right behind it. So it's very shielded to begin with, but added to that was putting this Faraday cage on it. They couldn't get any kind of reading.
They couldn't read it at all. And so then I did a little test with the meter, with the Acousticom, and we took the cage off. And I started measuring it. And this was a big surprise to me. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the same for other people's smart meters, but the smart meter, it did the spike exactly like you said it would near the meter and inside the house too. But once I got about 4 feet from it, even in the house, it didn't register it anymore. And I was really surprised because I thought that would be through the whole house.
And you stayed there for a good long while.
I was watching it and
holding this meter, waiting to see if it would spike.
And then I'd move closer again and I'd get a little spike into the yellow of like 3 feet from it. And then I moved back and nothing. So I was pretty amazed at how little the smart meter was affecting the house and how very much the neighbor's house was. It was like the opposite of what I expected.
And again, it's that it's the cell phone and the Wi-Fi that are doing most of the damage here. Yet we see pretty consistently in the alternative media circles, there's this inordinate emphasis placed upon the smart meter. Deborah Tavares has that smart meters murder. It's like,
and if you're using a smartphone, that's so much worse than a smart meter. And I know so many people are up in arms about smart meters and they're like tweeting about it on their smartphones. So, let's get real here. We got to make some changes.
I want to show you some charts on smart meters. I didn't show you guys this because we didn't really have a lot of time to do it. This requires a time and physically being there. But this is data logging where it shows you what's going on at night. Because
Oh,
most people don't know this, but smart meters will beacon, every 20 minutes, or they're all different. But at night, they data dump, and they send a huge spike of energy in a very quick pulse. And that's what wakes people
4
up at
a.m.
night.
Is it
Huh?
what time? About 4 a.m.?
Sometime it depends. Like right now, I'm waking up at 2 a.m. I'm surrounded by banks and banks of smart meters. And I have my house shielded, but I have little cracks and crevices and things I'm still plugging up, and it's coming through the cracks and crevices. This stuff is insidious.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so I've been data logging it, and this is in a shielded canopy. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay.
And I'm still getting tiny little spikes from the smart meter.
You are surrounded by a lot of stuff. We sleep in a shielded canopy too. And inside the canopy, the Acousticom was registering in the low green, which was, it was in the no concern. And sometimes if we got really lucky, it wouldn't register even in the green at all in our canopy.
It wouldn't even come up.
So you're
nice
surrounded by,
it's like camping.
I love it. And you get a good sleep inside the canopy. And by the way, the EMF canopies, you can get them. I think I got it at radmeters.com. There's websites online, mostly in Europe, that sell EMF canopies for sleeping that go around your bed. And you also use a shielded floor mat that goes with it. So you're creating a Faraday cage around the bed. And so we started using ours again, and it has helped a lot with sleep. We've used it for a long time, then we stopped and we tried it again. And we're going to stay in there.
It's a pain. It looks like a mosquito net, and you gotta you work with it, and of course move it aside when you're making the bed.
And you've got to make sure it's fully sealed.
My parents visited, and my dad was, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, he didn't want to know. No. Once I told him, he was like, "Oh, no, you guys believe in that energy that I can't see."
But but with what's going on with this house nearby, 2 houses actually, it's quite worth it.
It is worth it.
You need to ride any advantage that you have in this,
and that's 8 hours
age.
a day. That's almost EMF free. Now it sounds like where you are, it's not blocking. I mean, it can't block as much because there's so much to block, right?
Yeah, I live in a townhouse, which is the worst place to live if you're EHS, but I have some skills. So I do signal blocking paint, white shield paint, has to be grounded. I do foil where there's cracks and I can't get the paint. And I can pretty much eliminate a lot of it. But I'm super sensitive. So
you are. I think even more than us. And by the way,
everyone's circumstances is different. Everyone has a different situation in terms of how much outside EMF that they're dealing with. So any way that you can reduce as much as possible, there's no reason not to.
I just wanted to also mention the shield that for the bed is by Y Shield as well. So if anybody's interested in getting an EMF canopy, that's the one we're using. And so
were you able to ground it yet?
Okay, we have an old style of mat. I went online because we were thinking about getting a new mat because our mat's a little chewed up, because we bought it 6 years ago almost, back when we still lived in LA, and we sleep on a mat on the floor on the mat. So they do actually kind of wear over time. So I went on the website and I saw they have new mats, and these ones plug in. The one we have does
plugs into the ground and outlet.
Yeah. So how does that work?
Well, as the RF is hitting the Faraday, the canopy, it's creating some voltage, and that has to be bled off into the grounding system. And it's not much. If you're not EHS, it's not going to bother you. But if you're really EHS like me, like I feel it as being pressurized. It feels uncomfortable. I can't sleep well in it. So we always recommend for everybody to ground everything that's conductive, because if it says conductive on it, it can conduct electricity. It's kind of acting like an antenna sort of, and you want to bleed that off into the grounding system or the
that makes sense. Kind of like a lightning rod, where the stuff is hitting it and it's conducting it, so it has to go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, we actually inadvertently missed the fifth type of EMF.
Well, it's not related as much to your house building. The fifth
Not-
type is related to your computer,
Not as
right?
much, but I want to just finish off the list proper.
Yes, and I hope this Zoom meeting doesn't end because I don't know how long it is. I just realized that. So if it does cut, I will definitely come back and catch you again. Zoom has made some
Probably
changes
we
since the
probably
last
have
time I
about
used it.
7 to 10 minutes, I think.
Okay, well, Zoom has changed how they do things and
Oh, okay.
as of today, but that's okay. I always have to get used to these changes. But yes, let's talk about the fifth type of EMF, which is blue light.
Right. The Building Biology Institute has just adopted this as a course of study in getting our certification. And the key figure is Jack Cruz. He's a neurosurgeon in Louisiana who did a lot of research and found that blue light is very toxic. And our world is becoming more and more blue lit because of this emphasis on energy efficiency. So when they design light bulbs and screens, they take out a lot of the orange, yellow, and red because it requires a lot of energy, but blue doesn't. So they just pack the spectrum with blue. So if you looked at a spectrum on your cell phone, it'd be like blue, a little bit of red and yellow. It's not a full spectrum like the sun. Well, our biology, our eyes get information and produce hormones depending on what frequency we're getting. And so we get blue light in the morning. The sun naturally gives us blue light in the morning, a lot of it. And then in the evening, it tapers off to almost none. And so if you were staying up all night with your cell phone looking at it, you're getting hit by blue light, and that destroys melatonin. Blue light destroys melatonin because in the morning you want to wake up. You don't want to go to sleep. So it gets back into your brain. It messes with your clock rhythm, all sorts of things. So the key thing to take away here is to you want to get FLux or Iris, which they're computer programs that they're in apps that you put so it will amberize your screen.
Oh,
That's
okay.
That's
That's
the
good
first
to know. So I
step.
don't have to wear those funny looking yellow glasses.
No, yeah, wear the funny looking
Oh, I
glasses
do.
too.
Yeah.
According to Jack Cruz, he said the FLux and Iris is the first step, and then the second layer is the funny looking glasses. I have prescriptions, so I have to wear they make really nice fancy ones. They make nice.
Do they make reading glasses? Because I need reading glasses.
You might be able to get it as a film
Okay.
put on, but it protects your eyes from the blue light. So you want to get outdoors in the sun because we were designed to connect wirelessly to the sun. And so you want to get as much, and you get watch the sunrise, watch the sunset, get out as much as you can. When you're indoors at night, you want to lower the brightness and go for red lights and black light. Black light is even better because it's got the ultraviolet in it. But there's a lot.
I love
online
colored
right
light
now.
bulbs. They're beautiful. We actually use them. We just use them because we like the way they look.
Mm-hmm. Incandescent and halogen are the best.
Yeah, we use incandescent.
Only.
LED is not so good.
There's a lot of flicker in LED.
Yeah, it's not good for it. Has EMF.
Yes.
A lot of EMF. So yeah, we don't use LEDs or CFLs. So it's good to know because a lot of people don't think about their lighting at all.
Mm-hmm. I didn't.
We do what we can. We go to the source, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the show, is because you, like us, are all about getting to that point of origin and creating a situation inside our homes, which is our sanctuary, where we can escape from all of that garbage that's going on in the external world.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have you here, is because you, like us, are very, very much into finding solutions in the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really
nature is the
appreciate that.
goal.
We really appreciate that because so many people just want a Band-Aid for it. And so you know of ways to actually deal with it. Oh, also just mention again about the shielding paint, because I think that's important for people to know how to shield your rooms. Can you do anything for your ceilings, for your floors?
The shielding paint is a little complex, and I would highly recommend finding the nearest building biologist that you can. If there's not a building biologist in your area, go to Building Biology Institute and find someone who can because we're doing a lot of Zoom now, a lot of, sending kits like I did with you, and Zooming consulting, because you really need a lot of information before you take on a project like that, unless you're highly motivated and going to do all the research. But White Shield paint is, and don't get the White Shield on Amazon, because there's a lot of fakes out there that won't work. You have to have a meter. If you don't have a meter, you don't know if you got a fake or not. But if you get it from a reputable dealer, it's Safe Living Technologies is highly reputable. They have good White Shield paint, and you need to ground it with this special grounding tape. You have to paint over it with about 3 coats of white, because it's black. And you have to ground it we recommend to the dirt outside, although you can ground it to the grounding system if that works for you, you're not real sensitive. And there's certain things about not painting too close to the metal on the outlets, because it would feed into the electrical system.
Oh,
You get
okay.
voltage. You don't want that.
So it's a complicated thing. It's not just something that you can do, but
something that's easy for someone who wants something quick. I need sleep tonight. I need to do it. I get radiant barrier foil. It's got it's aluminum coated plastic, so it's tough, and it comes in big rolls. And they use it in construction to insulate houses, so that the sunlight, the radiant energy of the sun bounces off, but it also bounces off Wi-Fi frequencies. And again, you don't want to build a nice big foil palace and then have all these devices ricocheting all over the place.
Yeah.
You can't have that in your house because it bounces around.
Yeah, but you need to ground that too. So and then last, if you are desperate and you don't have much money, take a roll of aluminum screen, not the nylon, but the aluminum screen. You can get down at Ace or Lowe's, and then you just drape the outside of your house, and you just made a Faraday cage.
Wow, that's great. Well, Sheila, how can people get in touch with you?
I have a website. It's emfsafehomes.com. My contact information is there, and I can help anybody who. And right now I'm doing it for free because I'm still in training.
Great.
Wow. Well, definitely people got to hit you up. That's emfsafehomes.com.
And we will put that link in the description too.
Very good.
Well, we really appreciate you coming and talking to us today. And I love this topic. I hope that everybody enjoyed it as much as me. And please get in touch with Sheila if you want a consultation and get every level measured in your house. She will tell you more than you even knew was going on in there. So thank you, Sheila. That's emfsafehomes.com. And our website is thekembo.com. We will put both into the description for the video. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will be back again really soon.
All right. I see you around.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.